I'm Libby Hill and I'm a speech and language therapist, and I have worked with a lot of children with selective mutism, and today I want to share my tips for interacting with children who may have selective mutism in early years and in primary school. So what is selective mutism? Well, selective mutism occurs when children who can speak and understand language perfectly normally at home are unable to speak elsewhere, so namely school or nursery. And unusually for a communication difficulty, there are many more girls than boys who have selective mutism. So how does it develop? Well, Michael Jones, who's a speech and language therapist, says that selective mutism can begin as shyness, but for various reasons, children have become progressively unable to speak in public, and especially at preschool or in school. No single cause has been identified, although emotional, psychological, and social factors may play a strong part. Some children with selective mutism are also anxious about new or maybe unfamiliar situations and activities, and they might be overly worried about taking risks. So you can see that there's a personality factor here. How can they be helped? Well, early identification and appropriate support is of vital importance. If a child is not speaking at preschool or school after a period of settling in, then a speech and language therapist should be consulted. The most important form of help is to establish good links between home, school and any professionals who are involved. Maggie Johnson and Alison Wintgens, two speech and language therapists, have produced a practical and comprehensive book about selective mutism, the Selective Mutism Resource Manual 2. And this offers practical and effective strategies for helping children and young people with anxiety about talking in public. I love their approach, which is to develop confident speaking. And this book is a comprehensive guide to the research and literature about selective mutism, as well as offering effective advice to parents and professionals. But in the meantime, what should we do? Well, we need to know two very important ideas that Maggie and Alison identified. Children with selective mutism do want to talk, but they need help to become confident speakers. Children need a step-by-step approach that involves the family and school working closely together. I was praised recently for the way that I'd interacted with some children and young adults with selective mutism, so I'm going to share my tips. When I see a child or a young person for the first time, I want to make the experience as least threatening as possible. So I try to sit on the floor if they're sitting on a chair, and I don't look at them. Neither do I ask any direct questions. So let's start with the don'ts, which isn't my usual style, but in this case I think it works best. Do not ask the child any direct questions. I find if I comment it works better. Wow, I love those shoes. Or I might wonder. So in that particular instance I might say, I wonder where she got them from. Maybe they'd fit me. Do not make eye contact with the child. I always look down as if I'm subservient, because then I know that they're actually looking at me and they don't feel threatened. If the child talks to you, don't act all surprised and instantly praise them. We might want to shout, yes, but you can keep that for later. Do not show that you're frustrated by the lack of speech. It's amazing how many children have told me that they know the person was frustrated, but that's just going to make talking to that person even further from the reality. Do not tell the child off for not talking. Now this sounds like a given, but it's amazing how many children have told me that they've been told off for not being able to talk. Do not give the child over-the-top attention, as this could be intimidating, but actually for some it might be rewarding the lack of speech. Do not mention selective mutism. This needs to be planned and as part of a programme. Do not draw attention to their lack of speech. We don't want you or others to think they're the child who doesn't speak, or they won't. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Circle times can be really, really awful for a child with selective mutism. So it's quite good to ask who would like to say something rather than waiting for each child to have a go. Include more activities where the child can talk, move, or even sing together for support, so that their voice, if they do choose to use it, is merged with all the others. Register. This is the bane of my life when I ask teachers, and what would you really like them to be able to do? And it's always the register, but really they can see they're there. So let them choose between answering or arm raising, but that could be tricky too. Or you could actually make a non-verbal game out of it to encourage interaction. Or you could simply repeat, is Amy here? So that the whole class can answer together each time. Give extra smiles and attention when the children try anything new, and do things with the children or make things easier rather than doing things for them. If you're concerned, appoint a member of staff to make a special relationship with the child or young person on a one-to-one basis. Actively support the development of friendships and inclusion in pastoral activities. And the big one, be patient. Do not pressurise the child or young person to speak. Focus on discovering and acknowledging their many strengths and attributes. SMIRA, the Selective Mutism Information Research Association, have got a great new website, so have a look there. Or there's a Facebook page where there's a huge files section, and you can always post your questions on there. It's a really supportive place because there's lots of parents and professionals on there who either have been where you are or they're in exactly the same situation. So that can be really, really useful. So thank you for listening. Please post any questions or comments on the Facebook page so that we can answer them for you. And we'd also like to hear about your experiences with having a child with selective mutism, either as a parent or from a professional point of view. Thank you.